Rory stared at the dressing room door, swallowing nervously as the arena rocked and shook with the entrance music of his opponent. The crowd stomping and howling filled the air with a primal war chant that Rory could hear clearly through the walls and floors of the arena. He wondered how this fight would compare to those he had fought on Earth. He remembered how intimidating it was to fight in front of 20,000 spectators at the QB arena back home, but this crowd dwarfed that, sending shivers down his spine even before he saw it. The promoter had said this broadcast would reach around 20 to 30 billion viewers, a stark contrast to the 120,000 buys for his biggest fight back on Earth. Rory snapped back to the present as his father, Bill, shook his shoulders. "Rory, now's not the time to be away with the pixies. Go piss before we get your gloves on." "I'm good," Rory replied. Bill sighed. "Just try. Will you?" Rory growled. "I'm not a child anymore. I can tell when I need to piss for myself. Thank you." Bill shrugged. "Your funeral, mate." He strapped the gloves to Rory's hands and secured them with tape. "Remember, son, 1-2s and leg kicks. This GRA may have 4 arms, but you have 6 inches of reach on him. And for Christ's sake, stay off the ground." Rory snapped. "I know I can't stop a choke. He has 4 arms. I have 2. You've told me 100 times already." Bill gave him a stern yet apologetic look.
"Sorry, son.
"I'm just trying to pound it through that thick head of yours and undo everything I've taught you." Rory's face flushed with anger. "Thick head? That's rich coming from the dumbass that got us here." Bill's eyebrow twitched, but he kept his frustration under control. "I'm sorry, son. I just don't want to see you end up like me." Rory roared. "And that's worth dying for?" He had more to say, but the appearance of a squat, toad-like alien shut him up. The alien, A.B. Bonello, asked, "Am I interrupting something?" Bill quickly said, "No. What is it?" The greenish-blue toad in a 3-piece suit replied, "It's time. Follow me." Rory stood up and took a deep breath. "Just give me the flag." Quiet activity filled the back of the studio while the broadcast commentators, G and Clack, detailed Shakta's storied career. G, a yellow-green bunel in a white suit, said, "Shakta is looking to improve his record to 587 with this fight and build on the deep run he made in the last Galactic Cup." Clack, a scarred and bespectacled GRA wearing a blue suit, shuffled some papers on the desk and added, "We can expect Shakta to come out swinging today. His coach told me that Shakta spent the off-season training his boxing hard, sparring with a top 100 fighter almost daily." The producer leaned out from behind the camera and started to count down the commentators with 2 of his 4 12-fingered hands. G asked, "Who's this mysterious top 100 fighter? Is he one of your students?" Klaklogid, "No, no, no. It's a secret." At 1, the human walkout song, The Joker and the Thief, began to play, and the ring camera cut from Shakta dancing in the ring to the opposite tunnel, showing the human fighter jogging out of the dressing room with a starry blue Australian flag draped across his back. The muscles in the human's chest bounced as he ran, and his blonde hair gleamed gold in the spotlight. At the halfway point, the human fighter slowed and started to shadow box. The camera zoomed in on the jellyfish tattoos coiled around the human's thickly muscled forearms. Clack said, "And now for the challenger, a human named Rory Caldwell, coming in all the way from the planet Earth in the Orion arm. At 6 feet 2 inches and 185 pounds, this 23-year-old human is looking to make his species proud in humanity's first foray into interplanetary competition." G chimed in, "If you folks at home haven't heard of Earth or humans before, it's because they joined the Confederation only 2 years ago." Clack added, "While this fight may seem no challenge to the Great Shakta, we cannot ignore the wild card factor here. Humans are high-category death-worlders, and the gravity on Earth is a bit higher than it is here." The commentators and Rory were shrunk to the corners of the screen as a highlight reel of human fighters played. Clack continued, as a clip of 2 blood-soaked human boxers exchanging a flurry of punches played. "These humans aren't the quickest or strongest, but they have some otherworldly elusiveness, accuracy, and endurance." G said, "That's some nonsense, Clack. Can someone check if humans are death-worlders at all? Anyways, I think you're taking this kid too seriously. Just because you were an underdog who proved the galaxy wrong doesn't mean every underdog can too." This human has never fought off-world, and on top of that, he only had 4 professional fights on Earth. The producer got on the mic. Gee, I ran a search, and it turns out Clack's right. Humans are Category 5 Deathworlders. Everyone in the room except Clack paled. The producer continued, could be an error, but anyways, get this. He wasn't even a champion on Earth. He finished 3rd in wrestling at the Olympic Games on Earth, and he isn't officially representing humans either. Clack began to say something, but the yellow-hued toad raised a webbed hand and said, Clack, Shakta is ranked 423rd in the galaxy, and this human isn't even acknowledged by his own planet. You can't seriously believe this Earthling is going to give a veteran like Shakta a run for his money? Clack raised 2 of his arms in exasperation, leaned back in his chair, and said, Stranger things have happened, gee, I think we'll just have to wait and see. Rory regretted ignoring his dad's advice the moment he stepped out of the dressing room, needing to piss urgently. The deafening roar of the crowd drowned out his song, and the sheer size of the audience, easily 1 million people, overwhelmed him. He handed the flag to his father and slipped through the ropes, entering the ring, which was twice the size of what he was used to. The extra space gave Rory a boost of confidence. If he got into trouble, he could backpedal and use his jab to keep his opponent at bay. Rory walked to the center of the ring and locked eyes with his opponent, Shaka. Shaka bounced lightly on his feet, shifting side to side, while Rory stood still, taking deep breaths and focusing on his foe. Shaka was taller than Rory, with beady black eyes, scaly gray skin, and knuckle tape on his 4 hands. Rory wished he had had the chance to spar with a Grax in the 3 days he had to prepare for the fight. The referee, a yellow-orange toad, shuffled over and switched on the translator box on his belt. No eye gouging, no strikes to the windpipe, no biting, and no low blows. Do it once, you forfeit the round, twice, and you forfeit the match. Understood? Rory nodded and answered, yes. Shaka grumbled the same in Graxian. The ref continued, there will be 3 5-minute rounds, and in the event of a draw, overtime rounds will continue until one combatant is unable to continue or withdraws. Understand? Rory nodded again, and Shaka just nodded. The ref patted both fighters on the shoulder and said, good. Return to your corners until the bell rings. Best of luck to both of you. Rory turned and walked to his corner. Bill, his father, set down a stool and gave Rory a sip from a water bottle before fitting his mouth guard. Tonight, Bill would have to act as cutman, cornerman, and coach. The ref signaled that the fight was about to start while Bill rubbed Vaseline over Rory's face. Remember, son, 1-2s and leg kicks. 1-2s and leg kicks. Bill slipped back through the ropes with the stool and shouted, show them what a human can do. The bell rang, and Rory stalked out of his corner in a semi-crouch, meeting Shaka in the middle of the canvas. He studied Shaka's guard, 4 hands up, 2 at the jaw and 2 just below the eyes. Rory stepped forward and snapped a jab into Shaka's face, then pivoted and landed a vicious shovel hook to the ribs. Shaka grunted in pain and lunged for Rory's arm while throwing a right hook and left uppercut. Rory slipped his wrist out of Shaka's 12-fingered grip and pivoted on his back foot, leaning out of the path of both punches while slamming his left leg into Shaka's thigh. Shaka grunted and tried to throw an overhand right, but Rory slipped it and slammed his left fist through the gap in Shaka's guard, connecting with his chin. Shaka reeled slightly but quickly went on the assault, landing 2 big body shots before Rory danced out of reach, successfully blocking Rory's counterpunches. Rory circled Shaka with more caution as the Grax picked up the pace and started chasing after Rory. Rory backpedaled, covering his retreat with jabs. Shaka checked a jab and feinted an overhand, baiting a counterpunch from Rory. Rory stepped in and snapped off a right hand but found nothing but air as Shaka ducked the punch and rocked Rory with a cross from his upper right arm. Shaka shot forward and grabbed Rory's right leg with his bottom arms, but Rory jerked out of Shaka's grasp just in time, narrowly avoiding a single leg takedown. Rory jabbed at Shaka's guard from his back foot as he retreated, noting the red marks on his leg from Shaka's grip. He realized that Shaka opened his guard when going for a takedown, leaving his chin wide open. Bill had seen the gap too and shouted, "Test the distance." The 2 fighters circled each other, Rory stepping in and out of Shaka's reach while snapping off punches into Shaka's ribs. Slowly, Rory edged closer, retreating less after each strike. The body shots were starting to take their toll, and Shaka began to lower one of his hands when Rory jabbed at his body. Rory feinted a jab, and when Shaka dropped his bottom left hand too far, Rory punished the gap with a right cross to the jaw. Shaka wobbled, and Rory followed up with a flurry of body shots and rapid combinations. However, Shaka's impressive defense and head movement allowed him to avoid most of Rory's blows. Rory winced as Shaka landed a big hook to his ribs. He tried to exploit the gap the punch left in Shaka's guard with an overhand right, but Shaka slipped his head to the side and landed a straight left over Rory's eye, cutting his brow. Shaka pressed the attack with a big right hook and a simultaneous left uppercut. Rory sidestepped the uppercut and leaned out of the hook, landing a shot to Shaka's ribs in the process. He stepped back out of Shaka's reach and went for a low leg kick. The Grax leaped over the kick and diverted Rory's fast right hand as he tackled Rory to the ground. Shaka straddled Rory, pinning his hands with his top arms while pummeling him with his bottom arms. Rory slipped one of his arms out and rocketed his elbow into the top of Shaka's head, causing Shaka's grip to falter. Rory reversed the position and heard Bill scream for him to get out of there, but he saw a path to victory. Victory attempted to wrap his arm around Zaren's neck, but the alien jammed both hands between the human's arm and his throat. Zaren pushed up onto his hands and knees with his free arms and violently jerked down, slipping his body out to the side of the human's grip. Leon saw something moving in the corner of his eye. "Oh, that's an elbow." Light flashed in Leon's eyes and his ears rang. Pain washed over Leon's face, and he felt blood running down his nose as his hold on Zaren slipped. The alien scrambled to his feet. Leon growled and lunged at the back of the alien's legs, tackling him back down. The bell rang, and the referee hurried to pull the fighters apart. Leon blinked tears out of his eyes and gingerly probed at his nose as he walked to his corner. He plopped down on the stool and spat blood into a bucket hoisted by his father. His brow was cut, his eyes swollen, and his nose broken. "Can you breathe through it?" his father, Mark, asked as he gave Leon a sip of water. Leon shook his head. His father set the bucket down and chided, "I told you not to wrestle." Leon spat blood onto the canvas as his father held the cold press over his eye. The one-man corner was already showing its weaknesses. "Did you see anything?" Leon asked. Mark pointed his chin to the cold press. "Yes, hold this for a sec." Leon traded hands with his father and held the cold press to his brow. Mark grabbed a towel and wiped blood off his son's face as he said, "Once you get close, he sets up for a takedown. If you don't back out, he'll commit, and you can go in low and land a clean shot on his chin." Mark set down the towel and apologetically said, "This is going to hurt." Leon groaned as his father jammed gauze-covered rods into his nostrils. The flow of blood from Leon's nose slowed. Mark continued as he pulled the rods out. "Watch his knee. As soon as he drops it, go." The bell rang. Mark cursed. He didn't have enough time to reapply Vaseline. He took the cold press, put Leon's mouthpiece back in, and hurried out of the ring. As Leon left the corner, his father shouted, "Watch the knee." Leon came out in full crouch with his hands low. He eyed his gray-skinned opponent warily. He knew exactly what he needed to do. He just had to figure out how to do it. As Leon circled his alien opponent, he remembered an old fight he had watched with his father, Rocky Marciano versus Jersey Joe Walcott. Leon smiled. "I'm going to knock this out with a Suzy Q," he thought. Leon leapt into action with an uppercut into the alien's stomach. Zaren stepped into the punch and threw a jab, an uppercut, and a hook in response. Leon dropped his head and sidestepped, slipping the jab, ducking the hook, and taking the uppercut in the shoulder. He stepped forward and landed a rapid 1-2 before Zaren could get his guard up. "Watch the knee." Zaren was caught off guard by the human advance, but welcomed it. The alien dropped a knee and launched forward, shooting his head toward Leon while reaching his bottom two arms for Leon's legs. The alien threw a straight left as he came in, leaving only one hand to guard his head. "This is it," Leon thought. Everything went into slow motion. He remembered the day his father had taught him how to punch for the very first time with remarkable clarity. He He heard his dad telling him, "Punch through the bag, not at it." As he swung, he even remembered the song that was in the background of the gym. TNT, I'm dynamite. TNT, and I'll win the fight. TNT, I'm a power load. TNT, watch me explode. The alien's punch glanced off Leon's head as the human took a step in and threw a lightning-fast jab into Zaren's hand, knocking it completely clear of his face. Leon's back hip shot forward as he swung his whole body into a massive right hand. Leon's fist whipped forward with all 185 pounds of his body weight and every ounce of power his muscles could generate behind it. Leon heard a sound like a gunshot as his fist connected with the side of Zaren's chin. Zaren's head snapped to the side, and the veteran alien fighter dropped to the canvas like a sack of bricks. The arena erupted. The fight was over. Leon screamed and flexed as he stepped over his downed opponent. He walked towards his corner, wanting to see his father's reaction, but the graying old man was looking past him, concern in his eyes. Leon turned and looked back at Zaren's motionless form. Leon's eyes widened in horror. Zaren's head rested on the canvas at an unnatural angle, blood pooling underneath it as it seeped from his eyes, nose, and ears. The crowd went quiet as the referee knelt beside the downed fighter to check his pulse. The referee looked to the judges and shook his head, confirming what everyone already knew. Zaren was dead. The crowd went wild.